Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for attending today's webinar, Fuzzy Data, Measuring Dry Matter and Brix Non-Destructively in Kiwi Fruit. So before we get started talking about our upcoming release of the 751 Kiwi Quality Meter, we have some housekeeping that we want to get out of the way first and some introductions. So Susie Truitt is going to be our webinar moderator today. She is our distributor manager at Felix Instruments, and she's been with the company for over 8 years. So during today's webinar, we ask that you guys, with any questions you might have, please utilize the Q&A function for all questions. Please refrain from using the chat box. The chat box is highlighted there in orange. There's an orange arrow pointing to the chat box and a green arrow pointing to the Q&A box. Please, when you're asking questions, use that Q&A box, because then I, as a presenter, will be able to actually see what your questions are and answer them and address them one at a time. If you are experiencing anything like technical difficulties, such as a lack of sound or video, then feel free to use the chat box function. But please, for all questions, use the Q&A function in Zoom. If there are any relevant links or anything like of that nature, Susie will post all that extra information in the chat box. So keep an eye out for that. If there's anything in there in the presentation that you want to look into further and we have a link for, we will provide that in the chat box. But just to reiterate, please use the Q&A function for any questions you might have. And so then at the end of the webinar, I will be able to actually go and address those questions one at a time. So I am your webinar presenter today. My name is Galen. I'm an application scientist here at Felix Instruments. I have a bachelor's degree in biochemistry and a master's degree in food science from Michigan State University. I am an IFT certified food scientist, and previously I have managed analytical testing laboratories for food and agricultural commodities. And I've also worked as a food safety consultant for the food manufacturing, cannabis, and produce sectors. So on today's agenda, we started off with some introductions. We'll go over a little bit of the F751, an overview of the instrument. And then we'll get into some applications and some specifications. I will then transition into giving you guys a live demonstration and then of the instrument, as well as our FruitMaps application. And then we'll end our Q&A with a Q&A session with myself. So just to give you guys an idea of who we are as a company, Felix Instruments was founded 6 years ago, and it's a subsidiary company of CID Bioscience. So CID Bioscience has more than 30 years of experience in the plant research instrumentation field. So we utilized all of that knowledge and all of that information to create tools for the agricultural industry and for commercial agriculture. So what we focus on is non-destructive measurement tools that will help commercial agriculture create a more consistent and higher quality product. And so our instruments are known for being accurate, providing instantaneous results. They're also very field ready, portable, durable. We also take pride in making sure that our data is as transparent as possible. And something we also really take pride in is that all of our product line is engineered, tested, and manufactured all under our same roof here at our headquarters in Camas, Washington. So that's a really something we really take pride in. So just a brief overview. Dry Matter and Brix are two really important quality parameters when going to actually determine the quality of a kiwi. And so currently in the industry, we are still utilizing technologies in the laboratory that are very costly and time consuming, that also cause you to destroy your commodity when you go to test it. And so with the Kiwi market growing, we think that it's a really important sector to focus our attention on, because we have these instruments now that can perform these same quality tests for dry matter and bricks, but do it in a rapid and non-destructive manner. So the solution for this, being stuck in the kind of dark ages of doing destructive laboratory techniques, is creating this Felix Instruments F751 Kiwi Quality Meter. So a few applications for the F751 Kiwi. This instrument, we've seen it utilized in other forms, as in our 751 avocado or our 751 mango. These instruments can be used in a very wide variety of applications. So from harvest being the kind of the primary idea when we initially came up with this concept, we kind of viewed it as more of a harvest tool. So a tool that you could bring out into your field, into your orchard, take scans of your kiwis or of your avocados or mangoes if you're using those meters, but taking scans of kiwis and knowing exactly how far along they are in their maturation, and then be able to track that as well. So being able to actually visualize and see in real time, when you are ready to harvest in a certain area of your orchard, or when you need to wait longer, to really give you the highest quality product that you can possibly get. But then we had people contacting us that were using it in a variety of other situations post-harvest. So things like quality management in cold storage and ripening rooms, or looking at import quality assessment, and then even retail outlet inspection. So checking the quality of your kiwis all along the supply chain, really. Because it's a great tool for doing those spot checks without having to wait for extended periods of time to get your results. It's just right there in your hands in under 12 seconds. And then, of course, people breeding programs, research institutions at the government and university level. People use this to look at quality traits for selecting plants for breeding. And it's a really robust tool that can be used for a wide variety of research applications. So I want to kind of expand on that. We can talk about some actual use cases for the Kiwis, the F751 Kiwi meter. So the F751 Kiwi Quality Meter can be used in the harvest situations, like I said earlier. And you can use it to make decisions, all your harvest decisions, without having to invest the time and the manpower that the current practices dictate. So current practices kind of go a little bit something like this. So you have the initial steps where you have to determine a sampling plan of what trees are you going to be sampling your kiwis from, how many kiwis are you going to sample, what location on the tree are you going to sample from, and then so once you have that sampling plan, you go and actually go into the field, and you have to make sure that your field workers are picking as minimal fruit as possible, because you don't want to lose all that money that you could possibly be making by oversampling your fruit in the field. So the field workers will go out, pick the fruit, mark the location of where they picked it from, all the details of where on the tree and all that, and then they'll bring that all the way back to the packing house or wherever the QA lab space is in the facility. And so then once it's in the laboratory, the lab technicians will go and run just the destructive tests. So they'll, cut the middle of the kiwi out or do various core samples. And then from there, they will dry it using a dehydrator or an oven, and even potentially microwave. But they'll have to wait typically at least a day until that kiwi is done drying and they can actually get any results for that. So once they do, a day later, they get the results, and they then have to compile that data, map out the results, and then from there, that data can then be used to identify any progress or problems ahead of the harvest, and then you can estimate your optimal harvest time. This process you need to repeat every few days for several months prior to harvest. So it's a really lengthy process, and it requires a lot of manpower, and it requires you to destroy your crop. So with the F751 Kiwi meter, the new practice is much quicker and way less steps. So it's simply having your field workers visit the orchard, take measurements using the F751, and then uploading that data to FruitMaps. And then you can just repeat that. So it's really as simple as that. It will give you all the data you need for Brix and Dry Matter. It'll give you your GPS location, and then you can upload all of that, the date and time. All of that is recorded. The data is extremely transparent, and you can pretty much almost instantaneously track your harvest without having to do any of the lab work. So it's really has taken this lengthy process and trimmed it down to the really essential steps of just getting your number out in the field, and then repeating that process. And it does it in a way that's non-destructive, which is pretty amazing. So it doesn't actually have to cost you anything from your from your crop. So another use for the instrument that we've seen with other models is use as an inbound lot inspection tool. So whenever a facility, a packing facility or a distributing facility receives fruit, instead of having to put it through the day-long process of completely unloading it from the truck, and then having to go through the process of waiting a day for your lab results, this gives you the opportunity to do spot checks right then and there while the fruit is still on the truck that's coming in. So you can be sure that that you're getting a high quality fruit before it even enters your facility. So it would look something like this. So a truck full of fruit would arrive at the packing house or the distribution center, the importer or exporter, and then the truck would unload that fruit, which is then put into a hold or a quarantine to await further analysis. Then after that quarantine or hold period, your laboratory technicians will then be able to perform those destructive analyses on your predetermined sample size. And then after a day, they'll get their data from the results, and they'll be able to compile that and then make decisions on the quality of the fruit. If that lot of fruit fails, then you're going to have to call the grower to come back, and then you have to reload that fruit on the grower's truck. And then that process has to be repeated for every time a new shipment of fruit comes in. So with the new practice, once again, we can trim it down to, 2 simple steps, basically, of just when the truck arrives, before you even unload it, you just take the meter, go up and take a random sampling of fruit and take your readings. And then if it looks like the lot fails, then you don't even have to worry about unloading or reloading the truck back up. You can just send them back with that fruit. Or if it's good, then that you're confirmed that you should unload that entire lot, and then you're move forward with your other processes. So it's a really amazing time saver especially when it comes to this inbound lot inspection, because you're cutting out a lot of time-consuming practices like the destructive measurements, as well as the having to deal with sending fruit back potentially if it fails. So this meter kind of clears a lot of those headaches. And then another use case that we've seen it used for is in plant breeding. So the F751 certainly is capable of being used as a breeding tool to look at, you know, the success of your breeding program, to analyze, you know, the outcomes of whatever breeding decisions you've made. So it can definitely be used in that context as well. So kind of rewinding here just to give you guys kind of an idea of how the meter itself works. In case you're not familiar with our spectrometer devices, the F751 Kiwi is essentially a field spectrometer, and it has a built-in model specifically for kiwi fruit. And so what it does is when you take a scan, it actually sends light particles into the kiwi, and what it's measuring is the light interactance with the molecules in the near infrared spectrum. And so when you take a scan, the data that you actually are receiving is a spectra for that fruit, for that scan site of that fruit. And that spectra is then correlated or referenced against the model that we've built. And when you reference it against the model, it then calculates and gives you your dry matter and your Brix value on the screen. So all of that's happening internally in the instrument within that 12 seconds of when you click the measure button to when you see a value displayed on the screen. That's what's happening, is it's receiving that data, and then it's referencing that data against the model that we built, and then it's giving us a predicted value. FruitMaps, I've already mentioned it before, but FruitMaps is an application that we've developed. It's a harvest tracking application. It's a really useful tool for tracking your harvest by creating plots. You can always wirelessly upload your measurements directly from the instrument to FruitMaps. All of our instruments come fully equipped to work with FruitMaps, and so that option, you'll see when I give the live demo, that option's right on the main menu. You can upload your data from wherever. And we're currently upgrading the application, and we expect that fairly soon we'll likely have a webinar about the new and improved FruitMaps, but it'll be more robust in being able to track weather data and integrate that into your harvest prediction calculations. So it's a really useful application, and I will show you guys a little bit of that when I go to do the live demo. Some other features of the instrument of the F751 Kiwi are that it's GPS enabled, so you can easily map the crops and track your harvest. Even if you aren't using FruitMaps, you still get that GPS data along with every measurement. It is Wi-Fi compatible, and it's also a very user-friendly instrument. So we designed the F751s to be a kind of a no-brainer tool where it has a very simple user interface, you know, minimal options for actually, you know, changing any settings and stuff like that, so that you don't need to be a power user or a scientist to be able to understand or use this instrument. All you need to know is how to navigate a menu and how to click a button. So it gives you fast and easy measurements in under 12 seconds. It is a lightweight instrument. It's portable, it's durable, and it's ready to use right out of the box. So when we say that, what we mean is that the 751 comes with the model, the Kiwi model, preloaded onto it, so that there is no extra calibration or any kind of model building, extra model building that needs to be done with the instrument. It's just ready to go when it arrives at your facility. And then it is a very good tool for using out in the field. It has that transflective display so that sunlight doesn't affect the display. And then also we utilize rechargeable lithium ion batteries so that you don't have to take the instrument and plug it in if it runs out of batteries. All you have to do is take out a fresh set of charged batteries, put them into the instrument, and then you can keep going about your testing. So we find that being able to continuously use the instrument on the go without having to worry about finding an outlet to plug in your instrument or anything like that was a much better route to go than having it the battery built into the instrument in some way. So just some specifications here. The model that we built is intended for use with Hayward or green kiwi, as well as Zespri Sun Gold kiwi. It does the dry matter and Brix measurements non-destructively. It utilizes a spectral range of 640 to 1050 nanometers. And the data that you actually get out of this, out of every scan, is the raw data, the reflectance, absorbance, first derivative and second derivative spectra, your GPS coordinates, and your date and your time. The battery, one set of fully charged batteries should last you 500 plus measurements, or if you just left it on, at least 8 hours of life. And the body is a heavy-duty powder-coated aluminum body, and it weighs about 1 kilogram. So it's a really great portable tool. Gives you a lot of data output, and it functions for regardless of flesh color for gold versus green. It should still function. In future versions of the model, because we do continuously update these models, we will, be incorporating other kiwi like the new Zespri red kiwi, and other potential cultivars of kiwi. So now I would like to switch over to just giving you guys a quick live demonstration of the instrument, how to navigate the menus, and then we will, I'll share my screen again, and we'll go into FruitMaps and just kind of look at the features of FruitMaps, and then we will be concluding our webinar and going through our Q&A session. So bear with me for one moment. Let me make sure that I do this correctly so that I am sharing my screen with you all. So give me 1 second. I'm going to bring up so if I'm going to click stop share, and now it's just me on the screen, I think. Should be, at least. Here is a mock-up of what the Kiwi meter will likely look like. This is by no means our final version. We do intend to be releasing this model soon, but we still have design changes that we potentially will make. But in general, it'll be green like this, and it'll look similar to all the other F751s. So, is it fuzzy? I'll look and see. So I'm getting informed that my screen might be a little fuzzy. So let me see if I can alter my video settings a little bit to make sure that this is it still fuzzy? It didn't change. So oh, okay. All right. Well, hopefully you guys will be able to see what's going on with the screen here. But anyways, this is the power on button. So it'll only take a few seconds for it to go through its power on cycle. And then once it is, you'll notice that the screen just says ready. So at this ready screen, it is actually ready to go ahead and take a scan. So what I'm going to do here is, oops, I almost went back. I'm going to go ahead and take a scan. We don't have the final model loaded on here, so the predictions are likely going to be a little shaky right now with this model, but I am currently working on the final validation of our new updated model. So on the screen here, you can see there's a lot of information. So let me hold this up as close as I can here, with you still being able to see. So we have the dry matter value, the Brix value, up here is the record name. So whatever you name your records, that will display up here. Over here, the 4 out of 4 is the number of measurements you've taken in this particular set or lot of fruit. Here is the date and time stamp, and then your location will be, your GPS coordinates will be in the bottom left. All this information, as I said, is extractable from the SD card that's inside of the instrument. It also can be transferred wirelessly via FruitMaps. So let's take a look at FruitMaps, or we'll take a look at how to get that data to FruitMaps. You simply click the back arrow or the left arrow, and then you'll see the main menu. So the main menu has your option to browse measurements, and then here's your option to upload to fruitmaps.com. You can also change ahead of time what the default lot is for your new measurements. This list can be updated either manually on the instrument, or it can be updated on your computer from the SD card. You can actually use the text file that goes along with the lot list and use that to update and create whatever lots you want, so that you can organize your measurements in the way that works best for your company or for your department. And then the last option is for setting up the instrument. This is where you can access things like factory resets and other things like that. So if I was to say browse measurements, I would click the right arrow to navigate into browse measurement. There's the measurement I just took. And then if I use the up and down arrows, I can see previous measurements. So with different, depending on what your organizational structure is, these measurements could be different fruit. They could be different sites on the same fruit. So if you did 2 scans on one fruit, then it could be that. And with the new release of this model, we will likely have updated this display in this organizational structure to be a more standardized look for everyone. So that's essentially how the instrument works. It's really that simple. You just click a measurement button, the light goes into the Kiwi, and in under 12 seconds, you will have a result on the screen that gives you your dry matter and your Brix. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to pretend that I just uploaded that data to FruitMaps. And I'm going to pull up FruitMaps right here. So this is what FruitMaps looks like currently, and it is a application that you can access from the website, from the internet. So any device that you have that's capable of connecting to the internet should work. So essentially what we have here, you'll see these large green boxes. So those are plots. So a plot can be constructed by going up to our top menu here and adding boundary points. And then, or if you mess up, you can clear those boundary points. So for instance, if I added a boundary point, let's say, I'll do it up here, I think. See if it'll work for me. Oh, I guess because this is our demo account, I'm not supposed to probably adjust anything. So, oh, here they are. So yeah, you can see that you can move your boundary points to be wherever you want. And then once you create, so I would say that triangle right there, I wanted to be a new plot, I would just save this as a new plot. And then from there, I can manage that plot by adding sites where I took scans. And you also can use it for if you have multiple crops. So you don't have to just use it for kiwi. Say you have kiwis and you have mangoes. You can have both in the same map, and you would be able to switch between the two and identify when your optimal harvest time is. So when you first log on, you would need to create an account. You would need to actually pair your device or add your device on FruitMaps. And then from there, your device should be able to wirelessly upload all your data to FruitMaps. And so that's what all these little individual blue dots are. So all of these dots represent areas where a scan was taken. And so, everyone has their own system of doing this, but a lot of times we see this kind of X pattern to be used for sampling to track, where in their orchard, their fruit are maturing faster or slower, and then utilizing this left menu here, you can see that there's different things you can change. You can change what your attribute target is, so the target of your dry matter or the target of your bricks, if that was another attribute. And then what the functionality that we're adding is going to actually automatically determine things like how the weather is influencing your crop and determining how much your crop is increasing over the course of one day in dry matter, increasing in dry matter, increasing in bricks over the course of a single day. So if you take measurements, say once every 3 days or once every 4 days, we'll be able to actually calculate, that rate of change that's happening over time. And it's gonna, it's not a completely linear rate of change. So it will change, more rapidly at some times than others. So that's something that we're working on being able to incorporate into our tracking system. But what these blue dots represent are that this area is meets or exceeds the attribute target. So whatever you set as your attribute will change the color of these dots depending on whether that fruit or that scan you took meets that number, or if it's too low, then it will be red and it will have not met the attribute target yet. So for kiwi, say you're going to wait until around 8 or 9 bricks. So if I had 8 or 9 bricks, it would be you would have your orchards here that would show, maybe this plot right here is ready to go, but over here, this plot is not quite ready to go yet. This actual green square would not be green anymore if the majority of these dots are not blue. So blue means meets or exceeds, red means does not meet or exceed. Green square, which is the plot, or green area, means that that entire area has met your target, and you can harvest that entire plot. And then if the plot area is red, then it will not. It signifies that you are not ready to harvest. So that's FruitMaps, and like I said, we are continuously updating the functionality of it, and we will likely be having a webinar devoted just to FruitMaps to really get into the nitty-gritty details of how this application can work and walk through the entire process of creating plots and tracking measurements, tracking scans, and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation with you again. Then we will continue with the webinar. All right, so that was our live demonstration. And so we're getting at the end of the webinar here, and just to wrap things up, we talked about today how the F751 Kiwi can be used to obtain dry matter and bricks results in seconds in a non-destructive manner, giving you access to your really important quality data in a fraction of the time that it would take to do it in the traditional way. We talked about how the instrument utilizes GPS and Wi-Fi for you to be able to keep track of your harvest and uploading that data to FruitMaps in real time, so that you have total visibility and control of your harvest from anywhere. We also discussed the wide range of applications that this instrument can be used for, whether it be harvest or post-harvest or quality assurance, import, export, inspection, retail outlet inspection, in breeding programs or other academic research or regulatory research. So it's a really robust tool. And also, of course, we always continuously update our models to be the most accurate they can possibly be, to include new cultivars that are, coming out in the market or that are, gaining more traction in the public eye. And we are always, try to pride ourselves on, being supportive and collaborative with our customers, because, we here at Felix Instruments also love to eat high quality fruit. So, helping you actually helps us in return. So, and we love to, continuously update and improve our instruments. So we like to make sure that our users are as satisfied as possible. So I know this whole webinar was about the Kiwi Quality Meter, but it is an upcoming release. Just wanted to reiterate, it's not, we're in the final stages of the model validation right now. So we do anticipate a release relatively soon. And then also on the horizon, we, on the CID bioscience side, we have a new leaf spectrometer that should be out sometime in early 2020. Which is also a great improvement upon our current model of our leaf spectrometer. So if you want to get in touch with us, there are multiple avenues of doing that, of keeping updated with our releases, keeping updated with any new software or firmware updates or anything like that. You can, or, if we're at a conference or a trade show, follow us on our social media. You can also always email us or call us. And if you ever happen to be in the Portland, Oregon area, or, in Washington, the state of Washington, then feel free to stop by our office and give us a visit. We would love to meet you and to talk about, whatever projects you have going on. So that kind of concludes our webinar. So I think we'll move on to the question and answer session. If you do have any inquiries about this device, any sales inquiries, please reach out to our sales staff at sales@felixinstruments.com. You can also give us a call, but we can provide you more information if this is a meter that you are interested in purchasing. So let me open up the Q&A box. And looks like we have 5 questions right now. So I will start with our first question is, can this instrument be modeled to measure quality in wine grapes? If so, where can I find the resources to develop the model? So this particular instrument, the F751 Kiwi, cannot be used to model wine grapes. However, our F750, which is our research model of our field spectrometers, absolutely can be used to model quality parameters for wine grapes. And we actually have looked at table grapes before and done performed measurements or created successful models to predict both, I believe, titratable acidity and Brix. So that is an instrument that you most certainly can use. And the resources to help you with model development can all be found on our website under the Felix Instruments F750 product page. There are multiple guides and manuals to and quick start guides to kind of give you an idea of what the model building process looks like. But that most certainly would be with our F750. The F751 series are single commodity meters that we develop a model for a specific commodity, and then put that into a very user-friendly device that doesn't require a lot of thinking or doesn't require any model building or calibration. So that's my answer for the wine grapes. I highly encourage you to look up our F750 model of field spectrometers. The next question is, what is the average battery life? So it depends on how heavily you're using the instrument, but like I mentioned earlier, it's about 500 plus measurements. But if you are just leaving it on and not measuring anything, then it should last a full day. You know, eight plus hours without you taking any scans or anything. But it really just depends on how heavily you're using it. I would recommend always carrying the second set that we provide. So we do with every instrument, we provide a second set of batteries. So it never hurts to just have that second set of batteries charged and then ready to go just in case the battery does run out. And then you can just pop new batteries in and you're good to go. All right, the next question is about the wine grapes again. Can we request a wine grape model to be installed in the instrument when we order it? So again, the 751 Kiwi would not be capable of having a different model installed on it. We make these 751s to be a single commodity only. So this will be a dedicated instrument just for Kiwi. However, like I mentioned, the F750, you can create models for whatever commodities and however many commodities you want on a single instrument. So highly encourage you look into that. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to our sales staff or to myself. The next question is, for research purposes, is there an option to change the red and blue to a gradient so trends can be viewed geographically? That is a very interesting perspective, and I really actually like that idea. And I will bring that up to our engineers who are working on improving the FruitMaps application. That's a really great idea to have the red blue be more of a gradient. I don't think there's an option currently, but I definitely am going to bring that up at our next engineering meeting so that we can potentially incorporate that into the new update of FruitMaps. So thank you for that. The next question is, if you are measuring the same fruit, taking measurements from same or different locations, how consistent would you expect the Brix and dry matter numbers to be, i.e. the range 1 to 2 dry matter units or percentages? So this is actually what I'm currently working on right now, is with the validation of these models, as I'm looking at ensuring that the accuracy meets our standards. So what we typically, before we release a model, we run a series of validation studies to ensure that the instrument is performing within 5% error. So the 5% being 5% of the true value of the Brix or the dry matter. So for instance, if the Brix was, or the dry matter was 20%, then that means that the instrument and the model should function that it would be within plus or minus 1 dry matter unit. So it would read between 19 and 21 95% of the time. So our models, before we release them, we try to ensure that they all perform to be within 5% error 95% of the time. So no more than 5% for 95% of the measurements that you take. And then the other 5% of those measurements, every once in a while there'll be something weird will happen. There might be, dirt or something that can cause interference with the reading, but just extraneous factors. We can't guarantee 100% of the time it's going to work, within 5% error, but we try to make sure we are confident that that at least 95% of the time the instrument will work. So I would expect, especially with Kiwi, since you're not really seeing a lot of above 20% or 20 degrees Brix, then it should work within 1 1 degree Brix and accurate within 1 dry matter percentage. We will also, but once I do finish that validation, the validation studies, we will make all of our validation data available on our website. We like to be transparent with how we perform our validations and how we analyze the data. So that'll all be available to you as well. The next question is, internal color is another important measurement, particularly for the gold kiwi fruit, to determine harvest. Are you aware of a non-destructive measurement for internal fruit color? So we didn't incorporate that into our model per se, but these instruments and these field spectrometers are certainly capable of identifying internal flesh color, because our spectrometer does have the ability to see into the visible range as well. That is a parameter that we could potentially look into adding to the model. But we have had success with people doing that in like mango. So that is definitely something we could look into. We stuck with Brix and Dry Matter mostly because those were the ones kind of across all kiwi varieties are the kind of the standard for looking at quality. So I don't know of any other instruments that would perform internal color analysis, but any sort of spectrometer that field spectrometer, or even a laboratory scale bench spectrometer that has any sort of visible wavelength range, as well as near infrared, should be able to identify. You could create a model to identify an internal color, or based on like LAB values. But yeah, our model on the F751 Kiwi does not incorporate internal color into the picture. All right, that looks like all the questions that were in the Q&A. So as I said, thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate being able to talk to you guys about our upcoming release. Oh, there's a question. I guess we have one more question, but it's in the chat box, which I think I specifically said. What did it say? So the question was, how many kiwis are needed to be measured in the field? And that question doesn't have a particular right or wrong answer. It really depends on what you determine to be a effective amount of kiwi to really represent your entire plot or your entire orchard. So that's really something you need to sit down and think about how much area you have, how much land area you have, how many trees you have, how many fruit on each tree, and then sit down and work out some statistics to see what is a statistically representative sample number for our orchard. So I can't give you a definitive number. So it's really something that's dependent upon your specific orchard. So is there any more in the chat box? All right, so that actually was the last question. So thank you guys again for taking the time to sit here and listen to me talk about our upcoming release of our F751 Kiwi Quality Meter. I look forward to seeing this instrument being released. It's been kind of my pet project for a while, so I'm really excited to get it out to you guys to be used. If you have any questions at all, like I mentioned, feel free to reach out to us. If you have questions about the specifics of the instrument, how it works, you can always contact myself. If you have questions about things like pricing or anything, please reach out to our sales staff at sales@felixinstruments.com. And last minute question of, do we have a release date? I do not have a firm release date for you. I'm sorry. It really all depends on on how quickly we can get this particular model validated and working the way that we want it to work and at the accuracy we want it to work at prior to releasing it. So especially with the holidays coming up here, I would likely anticipate early 2020, but no firm date yet. But we definitely will keep you updated. If you follow us on any social medias or just visit our website, or we will likely publish articles in various newsletters like Fresh Plaza. We'll publish letters or publish an article in there that has more details on a firm release date when we have a better idea of when that'll be. So yeah, I am very happy that you all got a chance to get a sneak peek at our upcoming F751 Kiwi release, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.